to do three things: to celebrate life, to champion hope, and to yell booyah. Booyah! Now this is how this works. You're going to hear booyah several times throughout my talk tonight, and whenever I say it, I want you to yell it right back up at me. So, booyah! Booyah! Thank you. I have to tell you this, my wife, who you're going to hear a lot about, my hero, the reason I'm still here, wanted me to start my speech a little bit different. Would you like to hear how that was? We are here tonight to do two things: chew bubblegum and kick cancer's butt. Folks, we're all out of bubblegum. So, 2015, I'm celebrating 10 years of being cancer-free. In 1995, I was excited to interview and get my first job working for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society on a brand new program where they took unexperienced athletes, trained them to do marathons, and had them fundraise. Does that sound familiar? 2003, I was getting ready to get married. I developed a cough, incessant little cough that I just couldn't shake, and I thought I was getting cold feet. And when I returned, we went on our honeymoon to Jamaica, and the doctor I went to see thought I had caught a fungus in Jamaican. So he calls my cancer the Jamaican lymphoma. Several doctor visits, several rounds of antibiotic later, I finally talked my doctor into giving me an x-ray, which showed my chest was full of something they weren't sure with, but they did a CAT scan, but at any time I had a lump pop up in my groin. They biopsied it, and it turned out surgeon called me and told me that it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. I started treatment, and after the first CAT scan, they said I had 6 lymph nodes in my chest the size of softballs, which is why I was having the cough. And I had it throughout my stomach and my groin. Went to see my doctor, and he said that they were going to stage me 4B. And I said, what's the worst? He goes, 4B. So at least I had that going for me. But after my first round of treatments, my first CAT scan, they said all but one of the lymph nodes in my body had shrunk down, were gone, except for one in my chest that was the size of a penny. And I walked out, I was shaking, and my wife walked out to the parking lot with me, and I looked at her and turned her about 3 feet away from her and said, booyah! Booyah! So it was, booyah became the rallying cry for my treatment, and became rallying cry for several of the teams that I was on our teammate for at the time. After my 4th treatment, things got a little interesting. I got a fever, and we thought, I had a fever after every treatment. We thought, oh, no big deal, but my wife goes, you know what, we better call the doctor. Put me in the hospital again. I was there for about 20 days, and slowly had more and more trouble breathing. Was on oxygen and couldn't even get out of bed by myself. They called in a doctor. It was actually, I called him Dr. House because he was just like Dr. House from the show. Everyone was scared of him, but everyone talked to him reverently. They put me into a medically induced coma. They told my wife to expect me to be in that for about a month. And told her that there was a good possibility I was not going to leave the hospital. My wife, my hero, walked up to that doctor, stuck her finger in his face and said, that's not good enough, you fix him. And he walked back in and he goes, you know what, I was too scared not to. They put me in a coma, paralyzed me. I had to learn to walk again, I had to learn to hold a spoon again. My muscles had atrophied. But realized that that was going to be my first training walk as I walked out of the hospital. What happened was one of the drugs I was being treated with, they told me was a 1% chance that it might attack your lungs. And never tell me the odds, because I'll prove you wrong. The drug attacked my lungs. I was down to 10% lung function. And through the help of modern medicine and my doctors, overcame. And when they brought me out of the coma, there was a doctor sitting at the edge of my bed, and he said, they're shaking his head going, I've never seen anybody survive that before. So being all hopped up on good drugs and halfway out of it, I freaked out a little bit. And I had asked to see the chaplain in the hospital. And in walked little Sister Maureen. She's about 80 years old. And I asked her, I said, Sister Maureen, out of all the people who've been through this, why me? Why did I survive? And she looked at me and said, Russell, if for no other reason, to celebrate life. And that's what I'm here to do. I finished my chemo, and I still had that one lymph node pinhead size right here in the center of my chest. The doctor decided they would do radiation. It was either radiation or crack my chest to see if it was cancer or scar tissue. So they radiated me, and in 2004, I finished my treatment. Booyah. Booyah. 2003, my wife Jen signed up for her first of 16 events, which she made me list individually: 2 century rides, 6 halves, 4 fulls, 1 goofy, 1 dopey, 2 mountain training, and then she's here this weekend doing dopey. Along with my wife, I have 7 brothers and sisters. 4 of them are TNT alumni, including my sister Tess, who's in the back here participating this weekend doing the dopey, who threatened me. She's my big sister, and threatened me up if I didn't. So during my wife's century training, I was the sag wagon and would go out 20 miles ahead of them with bagels and brownies and cold wash rags. But I was falling asleep while I was waiting for them. I went back to the doctor and found out that my red cells had dropped. Continued to receive blood transfusions until they finally sent me for a bone marrow biopsy. Turned out that due to the harshness of my treatment for my Hodgkin's disease, I had developed AML. They sent me in and got me ready for a stem cell transplant. The odds of a sibling matching is 1 in 4. Luckily, I had 7. My fourth birthday present was my little brother Tim. It turns out he turned out to be the best birthday present I ever received because he was a perfect match. I received his stem cells after 28 days, left the hospital, and my immune system was perfect. They give you a little binder when you leave the hospital, and it tells you to be careful about this, be careful about that, your immune system is compromised. They literally opened the binder, took that section out, and said, you know what, you're fine, go live your life. So, as I was leaving the hospital, we were literally driving home, leaving from receiving my stem cell transplant. We received a call. Our little friend Kaylee had gone to the hospital the same time I did to receive her stem cell for her 3rd remission with cancer. Kaylee didn't make it. And that's when my wife turned to me and said, Russ, there's too many sad stories, and I'm going to run until there are no more sad stories. And on your table, there's a gift from me and my wife. You'll see a little purple band with green writing that says, until there are no more sad stories. What you can't see is if you roll it over on the inside, embossed is the word booyah. Booyah. February of 2008, the greatest day of my life, I became a daddy. And then in April of 2011, went to my doctor. I was having heartburn. And he goes, what's wrong? He goes, I go, having heartburn. He goes, go get a stress test. Turned out that the main artery to my heart was 99% blocked. They said it was because the radiation had scarred that artery, giving the fat cells something to hold on to. I received a triple bypass in April 2011, and the coincidence was that it was also the day of the Go St. Louis Marathon, in which 50 team and training members ran by my hospital room. So that was a great honor. In October of that year, I completed my first team and training event. Cardio rehab is a great training device, but I don't recommend it. In 2013, I was diagnosed with melanoma, which they said I'm on so many immunosuppression drugs, that's probably what caused it. They sliced it out and said it was a 1/18 of a millimeter thin. Make sure you put on sunscreen. When you leave tomorrow, it will be dark. Don't forget the sunscreen. December of 2011, at the age of 40, I became father to twins, a little boy and a little girl. January of 2013, I completed the Disney World Marathon. Last year, I completed the half marathon, and funny enough, Mark, who was up here with FIS, we actually started off walking together and walked the marathon together, and it was the most fun I've ever had walking 13 miles. So thank you, Mark. So, as you can see, we have lots of reasons to celebrate tonight. Tonight, we celebrate survivors. My office, in 2003, my office was right down the hallway from the Susan G. Komen office. And we were doing the Susan G. Komen run that year. And I went in and dropped off forms all the time. And I was excited to tell the woman who was in charge of that office that I was so happy because I finished chemo and I was a survivor now. And she said one of the most poignant things I've ever heard. She said, "You're not a survivor because you finished chemo or radiation. You're a survivor because you lived 1 second after they told you you had cancer." So everyone who survived 1 second after you were told you have cancer, I say, booyah. Booyah. I also want to celebrate one of the oft-forgotten group of people. I want to celebrate caregivers. Because without caregivers and advocates, I know I wouldn't be here. Without my wife telling my doctor that his best wasn't good enough, that he needed to fix me. Without someone checking my medical records, without someone putting a blanket over me when I fall asleep on the couch. Without someone telling me I love you, I wouldn't be here tonight. So all you caregivers out here, I say, booyah. Booyah. Tonight, we celebrate those currently fighting. Those of you who are undergoing treatment, I tell you, stay positive. If you believe you will win, you will win. My doctor, when I first was diagnosed, when I first heard my treatment regimen, I asked him, "Why are you going at it so hard? Is it that bad?" He goes, "No, it's that curable." I go, "How do you think we're going to do?" He goes, "I think we're going to do great." And it was that positive attitude and that positive spirit, even through my darkest times, that kept me going. All you people fighting out there, I say booyah. Booyah. Tonight, we also celebrate those whose battle has ended. Stuart Scott, who recently passed away from cancer, said it most eloquently. "We do not lose by cancer by dying. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live. Whether their lives were long and short, whether their journey was long or short, whether their battle was long or short, they brought us joy. inspired us to be here tonight to keep fighting. Forgive me tonight, I have a picture up here. This is Margot. Margot's battle with cancer started in June of 2012. She was 21 months old. She went through just about every trial, every treatment that you can have. She was in New York in the beginning of December last year, this past Christmas. And the doctors told her there's nothing more we can do for you. And they sent her home to die. New Year's Eve, she passed away. She loved dressing in pink. She loved Disney princesses, and she loved docking stockings. That's my daughters. And I think it's unacceptable that today's day and age that the parents of a 4-year-old have to hear that there's nothing else we can do. But she's inspired our group. She's inspired the Gateway chapter, who have pledged to keep fighting, go up, and we've had over 40 members of past teams pledge to do an event this year in Margot's memory. For those who have touched our lives, whose battle has ended, and for those of you who are here inspired to fight in their honor, I say booyah. Booyah. Tonight we celebrate your achievements. To date, and this is an amazing stat, and you've heard it several times, Team in Training has raised over $1 billion. That's billion with a B. This group in here has raised over $2 million. Some of you completed some races. Everyone, by the end of the weekend, will complete a race. To all of you, I say booyah. I'm almost done, I promise. See a couple people here in the front row crossing their legs, so I'll be quick. We're also here tonight to champion hope. In 1995, when I worked for the Leukemia Society, survival rate for Hodgkin's lymphoma was 50%. So in 2003, when I was diagnosed, I was scared, you know what was. When I called the Leukemia Society, and when I talked to my doctors, and this is what really annoys me about my doctors, is they all kept saying, and the day that I was there getting my orientation was the day that the FDA approved it for use. And that was pretty amazing to know that. Yeah, booyah! Booyah! That was pretty amazing to be part of that, knowing that money that my family has raised helped fund that. About a year later, we were at a Team in Training event. We were at a kickoff or an informational meeting, and they introduced me to a young patient. And I'm like, oh, what do you got? He goes, I just got CLL. I just take a pill every day. And what he didn't realize is that a year ago, that his cancer had a 95% mortality rate. And just a year later, with the help of funding for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, his cancer had a 98% survival rate. And that's when we called the Leukemia Society, and they sent us a patient binder. And inside this binder was everything we had talked about creating. It had schedules, it had places for business cards, it had a little thing it told about all the drugs that you were taking and what the effects it was going to have. It had a place for emergency numbers, and they sent it to us for free. And it was a roadmap for our treatment. My wife came to every one of my treatments, and she had what started out with a binder like this, by the time we were finished, was a binder like this. And at the end, the doctor stopped telling her what it was. They just, here, give us a binder, and they told her to fill in the appointments. And that was another thing that the Leukemia Society does. Something simple, but something that makes such a difference. Another thing to do is provide reimbursement for expenses. Patients are eligible for up to a certain amount of financial aid, so a certain amount of copay assistance. And some of that financial aid includes transportation costs. When I was going through my first treatment, we were in a big room, it's just a room with 8 chairs. And there was a lady that sat across from me one day, crotchety, mean, nasty old woman. Loved her. Loved every second, loved everything about her. We got to be great friends. And part of sitting there for 8 hours with a needle stuck in your arm with a bag of poison hanging, dripping in, she made that tolerable. And to the point where we almost looked forward to go in to see what Mrs. Booth was going to do that day. After I finished my treatment, I came in for a follow-up visit, and that's when one of the nurses told me, he goes, yeah, we call a cab. Mrs. Booth didn't have any family, and she didn't have any way to get to the doctor, and she had just been content to let herself go. And that's when they called the Leukemia Society, who arranged for transportation for her to come to the doctor. So again, indirectly affecting my treatment and helping me get cured by providing transportation to this lady. Survival rates for the lymphomas are at 97%. Survival rates for children in 1964 for children's leukemia was 3%. Now it's over 90%, in just a little over 40 years. Here's a little fact that I didn't even know. Chemotherapy, which they use to treat all blood cancers, was developed first to treat blood cancers. The video you saw earlier, the Fire with Fire, I guarantee you it won't be long before that's transferred into other types of cancers. So, in conclusion, thank you. Tonight, we celebrate life. We celebrate the hope given to those of us here that are able to talk about their cancer in the past tense. We celebrate those who are bravely fighting against an opponent that doesn't care who you are. We celebrate those whose journey with us has ended, as they have inspired us to carry on our fight against blood cancers. But tonight, we especially celebrate everyone here, for you are the true champions of hope. Someday a family will walk into a hospital and hear a diagnosis, and then be told that 5 years ago, this would have been a terrible diagnosis to get, but now take this pill, and in 6 months, you're going to be able to go about your life. Today, you're giving hope to those cancer patients of tomorrow. In 2003, my new wife and I started on our journey. What started out what would become a 3-year journey. And even in our darkest time, we never lost hope. We know that it's because of the research funded by LLS that I am still here to talk to you today. In closing, I'd like to invite you tonight to join my wife Jen and I and commit to walking or running until there are no more sad stories. To help us bring an end to parents saying goodbye to children, children saying goodbye to parents. To give those hope to those who did not have hope before. To put an end to blood cancers. In high school, we had an inspirational speaker that told us the 2 most important words in the human language are thank you. 2 words are not enough to express the gratitude my wife and I have for everything that you have done. So on behalf of my wife and our 3 beautiful children, and on behalf of survivors and patients throughout the world, and those who will be diagnosed tomorrow and beyond, I say, mercy, danke, shukran, gracias, sheshe, dawe, tag, salman, kitos, mahalo, toda, grazie, asante, booyah! And thank you. Good luck on your race. diagnosed, and we sat, and the doctor was telling us all the drugs and all the appointments and all the things. I was like, how in the world are we going to keep track of all this? How in the world are we going to figure this out?